I think we're live streaming.
All right.
Kick open the opening card and get things rolling.
You can see the card, right?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me do this.
Okay.
All right.
Your way, Aubrey.
Okay, thank you. Oh, hello, everyone and everybody and everything to the Freedom Church of the Poor this Sunday. It's good to have you here with us. And tonight is good without God and bending the moral arc of the universe. And we're going to be discussing morality, secular morality versus religious systems of morality. I'm going to be talking about some other important issues as well. And we have some speakers, and we're going to go right to introductions. I do believe, Trisha, would you like to introduce yourself?
I would, thank you. I'm Trisha, and I live in the homelands of the Wabanaki people of the Wabanaki people of the Dawnland. My house sits on a high ridge above the Piscataquis, the river of many waters, a waterway of the Penobscot Nation. For time out of mind, people have lived in what we now call Maine, New England, the United States of America, the New World. Indigenous people, communities, and nations continue to exist, persist, and thrive in spite of more than 500 years of relentless colonization, genocide, treaty violations, forced assimilation, family separations, and environmental degradation. I encourage everyone to learn more about the land you're living on and about the people who called it home before it was stolen from them. Land acknowledgements may seem like a small, insignificant performance with no real impact. I've been saying them now for over a year on our Wednesday night Lift Up live streams, and I can say that they have certainly had an impact on me and my thinking. I've had to re-examine stories I learned as a child, stories my parents and my church taught, stories I thought I had abandoned when I took my queer feminist ass out of the church. I grew up believing America was given to us by God, and that as long as we lived his commandments, we would continue to be blessed. I grew up believing America was uniquely favored by God, that it is the literal promised land. I was taught that our founding fathers and the founding documents were inspired by God. I was taught that Western expansion was destined by God, and that US imperialist aggressions against other sovereign nations automatically have God's approval. I grew up believing my faith was the only true faith, and we had a responsibility not only to live the gospel, but also to spread it, mostly in places softened by US imperialism. The gospel includes assimilation to standards of dress and grooming set by church authorities. Living the gospel looked like striving to embody a picture of wholesome white America, Not everyone grows up in a faith tradition so firmly entwined with the US imperial project, but most of us grew up learning a secularized version of the national narrative. The violence of land theft and genocide is romanticized, slavery sanitized. Perpetrators of conquest are held up as heroes and often as models of moral behavior. Think of I Cannot Tell a Lie, George Washington, renowned Indian killer, land thief, and enslaver. Land acknowledgements challenge our valorized narrative and take steps toward exposing the lies. This land is not my land from California to the New York Island. It was not made for you and me. The US is not uniquely blessed by God. Americans are not exceptional. It can be difficult to tell the truth when all you have learned in school and or church is based on lies. You have to realize you've been taught lies, and then you have to learn the truth. I recommend reading Unsettling Truths, The Ongoing Dehumanizing Legacy of the Doctrine of Discovery by Mark Charles and Soon-Chan Ra. It's an important discussion of the papal edicts justifying the African slave trade and the exploitation of land and people that characterize the so-called age of exploration. To move forward together, we need to reckon with the conflation of God and country that has grown out of the lie of divinely sanctioned genocide, slavery, and land theft. The truth will set us free. We'll be free to end an economy based on extraction. We will be free to abandon the imperialist project and dismantle the enormous waste of human potential that is the US military. Yes, a land acknowledgement is a small action, and it is an exercise in cultural humility and can be a step toward restoration and reparation. Once we've begun to see behind the narrative of paternalism, it's natural to demand our government honor treaties and return sacred sites to the proper hands. For Mainers, it means demanding state recognition of tribal sovereignty and the Penobscot River as part of the Penobscot Nation. Battles continue for territory and other recognition all over the US. Researching a land acknowledgement is one way to learn about current issues for Indigenous people in your area. Try incorporating land acknowledgements into your life and see how it changes you. And we've got a link to a way to find whose land you're living on.
Great. Thank you, Tricia. That was good.
Thanks.
And I realized I didn't introduce myself. I'm Aubrey L. Trout with the Maine chapter of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for more revival, resident theomusicologist and atheist extraordinaire. Josh, do you want to pop on and just introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, my name is Josh Coppola, they, them, up here in Bangor, Maine. Yeah.
All right. Now I do believe we're hopping to a song. I've recruited just today Mindy to help me with contributing some cajon play.
Yes.
All right. Too many papers. All right. I don't know if anybody can see. Stick it there. All right, are we ready? Stand up. Maybe. We done. There's no way to do it. Okay. Are we ready? Bum, bum, bum. I ain't afraid of your Yahweh. I ain't afraid of your Allah. I ain't afraid of your Jesus. I'm afraid of what you do in the name of your God. I ain't afraid of your churches. I ain't afraid of your temples. I Ain't afraid of your praying, I'm afraid of what you do in the name of your God. Rise up to a higher power, free up from fear, it will devour you. Watch out for the ego of the hour. The ones who say they know it are the ones who will impose it on you. I ain't afraid of your Bible. I ain't afraid of your Torah. I ain't afraid of your Quran. I'm afraid of what you're doing in the name of your God. I ain't afraid of your spirit. I ain't afraid of your dances. I ain't afraid of your music. I'm afraid of what you're doing in the name of your God. Rise up to a higher power, free up from fear, it will devour you. Watch out for the ego of the hour. The ones who say they know it all are the ones who want to impose it on you. I ain't afraid of your children. I ain't afraid of your culture. I ain't afraid of your stories. I'm afraid of what you're doing in the name of your God. I ain't afraid of your Sundays. I ain't afraid of your churches. I ain't afraid of your steeples. What you've been doing and I wrote something that wasn't there ever before. Take it back. What you doing? What you doing in the name ain't too good for all the peoples now. Rise up to a higher power, free up from fear, it will devour you. Watch out for the ego of the hour. The ones who say they know it are the ones who gonna impose it on you. I ain't afraid of your Yahweh. I ain't afraid of your Allah. I ain't afraid of your Jesus. I'm afraid of what you do in the name of your God. Without ever practicing it. Woo! Need water.
That was great.
Frog in my throat. All right. Ooh, where'd my paper? We are, excuse me, going to go now to a statement on the winter offensive. I do believe with Jay, is it Jay?
We're gonna, sorry, we made a last minute change. We're gonna read quick the mission statement.
Mm.
So I'll do that real quick. And thank you for that amazing song. That was awesome.
Oh, of course.
And
Thank
then
you.
right after me, I'm trying to figure out how to share screen here. Why is this like this? There you go. Oops. Here we go. Okay. So the mission of the Freedom Church of the Poor is to be a home, a spiritual home for movement leaders and a place to help nurture moral leadership for the struggle to end poverty, systemic racism, ecological devastation, militarism, and the false moral narrative of Christian nationalism. And that's so clear tonight, how much we strive against that work. We reject the religion of empire, which blames the poor for their poverty, pits poor and dispossessed people against each other, and promotes the false narrative that poverty cannot be ended, only alleviated through charity. The Freedom Church of the Poor began meeting in March of 2020, just as the COVID-19 pandemic was breaking out in the US. The Freedom Church comes together in these times out of necessity to help end a system that is otherwise killing us. We're a loose network of workers, heathens, poor folks, pastors, organizers, thinkers, and fighters, and we're bound together by our conviction that the world does not have to be this way and that it is not as good as it gets because God created abundance for all, not just for a few. We're interfaith, interspiritual, and non-religious, come from every region of the country. We welcome all who wish to be part of the movement and all victims of empire. And just so happy to have Maine and folks from Maine here tonight, and all of you. But it's a special night. I think we've been excited for weeks in preparing this. So thank you again for all the work you put into this. And I'm going to pass it to Jay from Pennsylvania, who's representing the National Union of the Homeless tonight in our second to final service of the Winter Offensive. So Jay, I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. And thanks, everybody. It's always such an honor to be with everybody at Freedom Church of the Poor. Again, my name is Jay Hube. They are he pronouns. I am calling representing the National Union of the Homeless and the Pennsylvania Homeless Union tonight. Glad to be here. And so I'm just going to read the Winter Offensive Statement of Purpose, talking about the season that we're in with the organizing work that we're doing with the Homeless Union right now. So the Winter Offensive comes out of the historic 1986 National Union of the Homeless strategy that called for simultaneous actions among affiliates under the slogan, "Homes and Jobs, not Death in the Streets." In collaboration with Freedom Church of the Poor and many grassroots organizations on the front lines of poverty, we welcome you to the Sunday School of Struggle. We will gather from Thanksgiving to Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday to hear from leaders all around the country organizing and teaching toward building a mass movement to end poverty. Awesome, thanks.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you. Yeah, important work. I believe we're going to have a poem now. And I also forgot I didn't go to Mindy to introduce Mindy. I've snubbed her. So I'm going to come back, introduce yourself and read the poem.
I am Mindy Bergeron Lawrence, and I am here in Winslow, Maine. So, yeah. This is the 21st century, and we need to redefine revolution. This planet needs a people's revolution, a humanist revolution. Revolution is not about bloodshed or about going to the mountains and fighting. We will fight if we are forced to, but the fundamental goal of revolution must be peace. We need a revolution of the mind. We need a revolution of the heart. We need a revolution of the spirit. The power of the people is stronger than any weapon. A people's revolution can't be stopped. We need to be weapons of mass construction. It's not enough just to change the system. We need to change ourselves. We have got to make this world user-friendly. Are you ready to sacrifice to end world hunger, to sacrifice to end colonialism, to end neo-colonialism, to end racism, to end sexism? Revolution means the end of exploitation. Revolution means respecting people from other cultures. Revolution is creative. Revolution means treating your mate as a friend and an equal. Revolution is sexy. Revolution means respecting and learning from your children. Revolution is beautiful. Revolution means protecting the people, the planet, the animals, the air, the water. Revolution means saving this planet. Revolution is love.
Right. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right, we are going to, I believe, next. Is it me? Is it me? I think so. Yes, so where to begin? To be candid, for all this time I was going through things. I was going to talk about this piece of it, and I was going to talk about this piece, secular morality, religious morality, and my atheist experience, and the experience with the campaign. And I have so many notes and things that I've written, and I realized, Aubrey, you've got about 9 minutes. So I'm going to wing it slightly, but one thing that I do want to make sure to get to is kind of how it feels to be in a predominantly, at least, religious campaign, and reaching out, and why it's important, and why it, it might be hard work, but worth the effort, I think. First, so as an atheist, you hear your whole life, lots and lots and lots of times. And this is not something that a lot of people think about, because it's just the way it is, and it's been that way forever, How can you don't believe in God? No. Well, how do you know right from wrong? I guess the experience of the world around me. People assume that you are, this is a big piece for me, and this has been the piece of being in the campaign, that for the most part, it has been very easy for me to feel settled in. I think one of the biggest pieces is the identity piece. People assume that you are. And when you consider it to be a major factor in your identity, it can feel kind of weird. But, and I said this recently to some of our Mainers here, Mainers, that before the campaign, I was a little more, I think, aggro about religion in general, because of the microaggressions, that you have your whole life, and it's written on our money. It's written, here. It's that people assume that you are religious. Why aren't you Christian? I'm going to save you. I'll pray for you. You hear that all the time your whole life. I've not heard it once since I've joined this campaign. And while, yes, at times I do feel, sometimes I do get a little frustrated. Even now, I've got much more used to it. And the reason I've gotten much more used to it is because I have been so accepted, and people listen to me and want me to talk about it, and it's okay to be vocal about it, and it's okay to, I don't need to pretend I'm Christian, I don't need to pretend I'm doing this, I do not believe in God, but we all have the same goals, and some of the absolute best people I've ever met in my life. Reaching out to the community is going to be it's not something people think about a lot, I don't think, specifically that community, because religion is everywhere, and it's just kind of the way it is. And so atheists and other non-believers, agnostics, and that kind of because of the experience of being atheist in a predominantly Christian nation, are very appealing to them, I think, will sometimes be hard, because of what a great number of people who are doing things in the name of God that are terrible, and that's who has the microphone a lot of the time. And because of these things, these awful things that you see in the world, I'm an atheist, and I don't believe that, but but what I see, I realize I'm kind of going all over the place, but that's how it was going to be. People doing things that I, as an atheist, go, I don't think that's Christ-like. I don't think that's Jesus-y. At least not, as I have read the Bible, at least most of it. And, as far as the Christian part of it, no, he was a pretty cool dude, if he was real, he was a pretty cool dude. I believe he was real, but that's okay. And it's okay to say that in this campaign. But I think it is absolutely, I think it would be silly not to try to focus on this community, because it is a very fast moving, fast growing sector of people. More and more people are non-religious, but people, because it being, having the appearance of a Christian movement, and kind of the base basically is at the, it's people will reject it on its face, because everybody's so sick of all of the nonsense. It's one of the fastest, there are, I think the number of proclaimed atheists in a poll doubled in the last decade, I want to say. I may be wrong about that, but it's something close to that. And, the non-believing community overall as a whole shares these values. Atheists are the majority, progressively minded, and a lot of the time, very, why am I getting emotional, Mindy? Why am I getting emotional? Why is this hard for me? I don't know what just happened. Why? The community can be really, really great allies, and there's a lot of us, and I believe that efforts should be made to purposely. I'm sorry, I'm emotional. I don't know why. Atheists, and on the other side of things, it's going, thinking about reaching. Often, oftentimes on morality, for instance, the discussion of is always done talked about in the context of religion. They write the definitions, they do this, they do that, and morality becomes that. It's not that way. Secular moral system is the way to go. You can't. What am I trying to say here, Mindy? When you base society's systems and on the idea that something that you can't prove exists, and that we should all just pay attention to this literal thing, and that's what's moral. Well, no, I don't have Christ, I don't have God, you know, but I know that if I smack Mindy upside the head, that it'll probably hurt. And I think, well, I wouldn't like that. And I know what it feels like to have something like that happen, you know, so I probably shouldn't do that, you know. It is possible to do these things. It's reason, it's data driven. It has, excuse me, I'm so thirsty. Pleasure is preferable to pain. Life's better than death. You know, these are fundamental things that you can base an enormous idea around. Health and sickness, you know, these are simple things, and because they come from experience, life experience, and your brain processing these things, developing over time, you can build a society on that. Because there are things that you can prove, it is evidence-based, it is data-driven. And values, for somebody who says that, you know, values aren't facts. Well, yes, they can be facts. If it's provable, and the human experience in the, you know, it's a community, over time, these things just become so. It is a fact. It is a fact that Mindy will hurt if I slap her. It is a fact that, you know, treating someone like shit is a crappy thing to do. I don't need a book to tell me that. And if somebody does need, and this is, I'm not knocking faith in general or a belief in a higher power. That part doesn't concern me at all. It's what you do in the name of it. I had so much written, and I know I've even gone over now. But things that are generally good for people is how it should work. You know, there may be some things, you know, that somehow they, you know, overlap in some way, but you can't build a society that functions and takes care of people based on a book and your personal belief. It's not going to function. And a lot of the time, it doesn't only not function all that well, people suffer a lot. And recently, you know, it's getting pretty scary. Some things that are going on. You don't believe in separation of church and state. It's also not democratic. It's not democratic. It's a dictatorship, you know. God is the dictator and just has decided this, and you ought to believe me, and that's fine. So we'll just do that. No, that's not how it works. No. We think, we learn, we grow. Another thing about why is this, you know, the secular model is better is because you can change anything when something doesn't work. you have some you know, these set of values or something that you built, and over time, if something turns out to have been not the right choice, you can change it. You can't do that with the other. And I could go on for about a year, and I realize I've gone on forever because I was not paying attention to the time. And I had all these notes strewn about. So we're going to go to the next thing, which I think is that, Josh. Unless anybody has anything to say in the conversation. Is there anything you'd like to say, Mindy?
All right, thanks, Aubrey.
So I'm sorry for stumbling so much tonight. When I decided to just scrap everything I was doing and just decide to touch on things here and there without a guideline, you go places, but that's okay.
Thank you. All righty. So I'd like to talk just briefly about, I guess what I've been up to and what you know, has been moving my work here in Bangor. So I'll open my statements with a quote from the monk Tanisru Bhikkhu. But when you learn to be true to yourself, the truth holds no danger. The truth holds no fear, because you're right there with the truth all the time. In 2016, I lived in my car. I worked at a nursing home, put together odd jobs. The lack of address was new. I would joke that my address was 1999 Subaru Outback. In prior years, I had lived on farms without plumbing, cabins without electricity, or regular road access, all while navigating the obstacles of poverty, homophobia, childhood and religious trauma, addiction, the lack of reliable, judgment-free healthcare, both mental and physical health. The personal fight I recognized through difficult processing was also a deeply political fight, and one that required me to reevaluate my view of what power was and where the most important things happened, and critically how I interacted with myself and the world. I reflect on Mary Oliver's question, tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Good is what I want the answer to be. To face the enormity of the interlocking injustices which connect to exclude and abuse the over 140 million of us poor and low wealth people, to heal the trauma and the habits that fighting for mere survival had left me with. That left me with that need to find others and to share hope and to build power and work through the difficulties of building community amidst hardship. In July of 2020, unhoused community members, leaders and activists began an encampment at the city hall in the biggest city of Maine, Portland. Responding to calls from city officials to move a service provider that served unhoused folks farther from downtown, we in the Maine PPC mobilized to stand with those folks, taking bold action and help to bring those demands to city council members directly. Many other PPC members and I learned a lot from that action, and we deepened our ties with members of our community who were struggling against unjust housing policies and the criminalization of basic survival. Policymakers, elected officials seemed so casual in removing resources and then defensive and avoidant when faced with the real harm, pain, and death that resulted from their exclusion and expulsion. We up in Bangor that fall heard another call to demonstrate in our town to protest the recent sweep of the waterfront, an overnight protest that, while it was removed peaceably at 4 in the morning by cops without masks on in the middle of a pandemic, The organizers and participants felt compelled to do more. So we convened on Halloween Day in the town square by the bus depot to talk with unhoused folks about what we needed to do to make our community better for those who are struggling. The conversation began a weekly gathering that would later be called the Greater Bangor Housing Coalition, a group of individuals and organizations gathering weekly. We listened and gathered demands, as you've seen on the screen, observations from folks for weeks as we started. We provided food, hot food and supplies, connected with churches and faith groups to provide additional support. We helped folks get connected to resources like applying for emergency housing vouchers. We're also maintaining a list of hotels that accept them. We mobilized for public comment at city council meetings to push for more housing, accessible and open public restrooms, which the downtown and much of the city lacks, as well as pushing back on the criminalizing responses to issues surrounding the lack of affordable housing. We encouraged the developing leadership of those most impacted and empowered them to share their stories in public forums and letting their priorities direct our work. Constituent organizations and groups of the coalition have worked to change the narrative in our city through listening sessions, op-eds, and ongoing organizing around the humane allocation of federal American Rescue Plan Act funds that the city and county is receiving. Much of the work is listening, learning, and being present with that testimony in public spaces, paired with organizing ourselves around the emergent and urgent needs of the community. My own time being unhoused and the decade of housing precarity that characterized much of my adult life left me with a lot of feelings, namely anger and despair. I seek to counter that by building hope and confidence through my actions. Buddhism has taught me that the mind is the forerunner of all things, and that the truth of this world is to be found by the observant for themselves. Central to what I've learned is both gratitude, which translates in the traditional Pali as seeing what has been done, and the foundational virtue of generosity and goodwill towards all. I reflect on that teaching that this life is one of many. Since an unfathomable beginning, up and down, I have been chasing the worldly winds of material gain, praise, status, and pleasure, and running from material loss, criticism, loss of status, and pain. Always reacting to the world I forgot I had a role to play, that the views I held would shape my words and deeds, and the relationships I build can bring about change and transformation in as much as I myself am willing to be changed. The only meaning in my life is what I make, so may it be a peaceful meaning. No one hired me to be born, so I am free to choose a noble purpose and a worthy pursuit. My actions and thoughts create the space for me to meditate. I work so that space will remind me of my goodness, not mired in regret or resentment. My spiritual path teaches me that my good deeds will meet me like relatives, greeting me after a long trip in a next life. I know that everyone has a right to live. We should not be separated from the things that we need to live by divisive and destructive policies and prejudices. I will stick with that truth, and I grow in that truth, and I find community, meaning, and purpose in that truth. Each being loves their lives as fiercely as I love my own. It follows that I shouldn't make my happiness dependent on the suffering of others. And if I have any say in the systems which are dependent on the suffering of the poor, the unhoused, and the marginalized, I will seek to change those conditions and build as equal partners a better world. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. That was amazing. And those pictures and everything. Really appreciate both you and Aubrey sharing so much. And there was just, I think Aubrey, it was overwhelmed with how much she wanted to share. And I feel like there's a lot of thoughts I'm going through my mind, and I can see on Facebook too that folks are really interested in engaging it. So I think we should, even though we're getting towards the end, I think it would be great to just take a few minutes and allow folks to jump in and just reflect on what's on your heart and mind after hearing these testimonies and insights from movement leaders here. So we have a couple minutes to do that. And also look on Facebook here. I think there's been some really good comments. But please jump in here in the Zoom room if you have questions or thoughts to share.
I just wanted on one piece that I was rambling on about was the outreach. And I just want to say kind of a little more clearly what I wanted to come across was Jody. I believe our Jody senpai. I had a hard time one time in where was that? That was Chicago, when we went to a national coordinating committee gathering, and I was overwhelmed with just all of the God and all of the, I felt like I was, I think I just said, like, I feel like I've had a revival or something. And it's not the being around it. It isn't the people. It's not what they're doing. It's just the identity piece of it for me personally is a struggle. And Jody, within Maine Coordinating Committee, Tri-Chair, said to me, this was like the third day, and I was just like, I can't. And I just started like crying and breaking down. And she said that, do you remember exactly what she said?
Yeah,
it was?
She said that this movement shouldn't feel like our movement, meaning religious people's movement, that atheists are invited into, that this is everybody's movement. That's not exactly, I added a little, but yeah, it was that, this shouldn't feel like a movement that she was welcome in,
Right.
that this was her movement too.
Thank you. I don't remember exactly what you said, the words you said. I remember the feeling. And that's an important, I think, piece to think about, because while I sometimes I have my moments, but overall, I don't usually feel that way, any longer, because of some of the things I mentioned, the way I'm treated and the interest in hearing the points of views. And however, that piece is going to be difficult to overcome for a lot of people, I think, and that it is too much religion. And I think, including more speakers, trying to find more non-religious speakers and guests, and I'm not sure what all the answers are, but reaching out to the groups, maybe to work together. There are a lot of groups. Anyway, I'm rambling again, so I'm going to let it be at that. Not outreach to bring atheists in, just to have, but to have it be their movement too. And that's going to probably take a while, if I'm honest, but I think it's very important. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think we'll win otherwise. And just, it's just been, I think everyone that's been involved planning this, it's been amazing to have this time to reflect together and learn together and really, I think the thing that binds us as a movement and as a community is not what we which creeds we repeat on Sunday or whatever, but really the ways that we have been hurt and are suffering, and those are the bonds that we share, and more importantly that we're coming together to fight back, and so that's, I think, the basis of our spirituality and our morality, and that's what guides us and gives us the insight. So I appreciate you helping us to break that open and make that clear, and again hope that this won't be the last time that we have this discussion, because it's clearly bringing out a lot for folks both here and online, and so I think it's
Yes,
great.
please have us back. I have so many things I wanted to say.
Good. Yeah, let's find that day on the
These
calendar.
papers need to be read.
Yep. There's got to be like an important, maybe it's the next equinox we can meet, or I don't know. I'm probably being offensive in some way. Okay. Josh, I think it would be great. Usually we do a prayers, and Josh offered to lead us in a kind of joys and trials this week, or I forget how we described it. But maybe Josh, you could take over on this piece. I'm looking for what.
Yeah, so I guess this is we were going to bring it up to folks in the room here, just joys and struggles of the people. And just we'll take a couple if anybody wants to speak up or put something in the chat. We'll highlight a couple of those joys and struggles of the folks on the line or out in the internet space.
Well, I can start off with the joy. A good friend of mine and of many here, and one of the founders of Freedom Church, Jess Williams, had a baby after many years of trying, and just made tremendous joyful news, and so happy for her, and everyone's fine, and sending out love and wishes, best wishes to them all. That little baby Phoenix, little girl. So
That was on my list of baby names.
And I'm seeing some folks putting in the chat a struggle of family members that have COVID and coping with that as being a struggle right now. Are there any other joys or struggles or concerns that folks want to raise up?
Yeah.
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, Josh, from Facebook, our sister Jan has raised up a friend of hers, Elaine, who had knee surgery and is having complications. So she is still in the hospital with all its COVID dangers, and Jan is worried about her. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And we do have concern of folks being a tipped worker and no one coming in right now and watching their income get cut in half. And is there anything else folks want to toss in? All right. Well, I will then say one amazing joy, and somebody just put in that atheists and heathens are here on the Freedom Church of the Poor as being a joy. And one of the major joys and struggles for all of us in the movement, the joy of working towards June 18th this year and moving towards this massive, generationally transformative event that is not just a moment, is a declaration of ongoing commitment of folks with many different beliefs, all believing that at the end of the day, when you lift from the bottom, everybody rises. And we're reminding those out there that you can sign up to to go to that march, to sign up and be a bus lead and organize your community, connect with the campaign in your state as we continue to build power and build momentum to really shake the foundations, those unjust foundations of this country, and build that joy together and that struggle together moving forward. So make sure you click on that link that's being dropped below. And then we've got some calls to action that are Maine specific. We've got Tricia reading those off.
Yeah, at least the one on the so in terms of the indigenous folks that live in Maine, there was a land claim settlement act in 1980 that outlines a different sort of relationship between the state and the tribal nations that is different from anywhere else in the United States. And so there is a bill happening that's in the legislature, or will be coming up this session, LD 1626. And basically what is happening is the tribes in Maine are asking to be treated like the 570 other federally recognized tribes. And they're asking to be able to determine their community's futures. They should have that right on their native lands within the state of Maine, without the state of Maine obstructing them. And so there's a link to the Wabanaki Alliance, Take Action, which has some links to help you formulate a letter to our governor, Janet Mills, who possibly could, bend to some pressure from out of state. We'll be working within the state of Maine to pressure our own state representatives and senators to get behind this bill. And it'd be great to have other folks pressuring our governor to sign on when it reaches her desk. So there's her contact information as well. Thanks.
All right, I think, is it on to Savina now, or am I skipping over something?
Well, we could just maybe just run through the last few announcements, and then I could do those real quick. Unless, yeah, Savina, I don't know if you wanted to jump in, but I was just going to say it's been an amazing winter offensive. We are coming up on our last official service for that period next week, and excited to kind of finish off strong, reflect on all the victories and struggles and folks we've lost, and just kind of ground ourselves in what we have to accomplish and what we have still to do. So looking forward to next week. Should be great. Should have a lot of folks together, and then of course, after that the movement continues. So we'll be out in the streets, we'll be online, we'll be caring for each other and making it happen. So I don't know, Savina, did you want to jump in or add anything about next week or anything?
Well, I just want everybody to just jump on in, right? Show up, come into the Zoom room. Let's get it going, because we've got a lot of work to do heading into Washington, D.C., June 18th, 2022. And I just want to say right on to all our Maine folks for cracking this wide open tonight. What a powerful, powerful conversation. Thank you so much, Aubrey, Trish, Josh, everybody. Thank you so much.
Amen.
Amen. Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, other than that, the next at 7:30, La Iglesia del Pueblo will come on Facebook Live at Cairo Center. So join there if you can and spread the word. And then Wednesdays at 6 p.m. we'll have our Freedom Church Bible study open to everyone. And yeah, I think Alex put in the chat a link for folks to sign up and so we can stay in touch. But yeah, it's been amazing. I think we're going to go out with a short little prayer and song. Aubrey, you want to take it from here, and Josh after that? No,
Certainly.
each other down the
All
road.
right. And this is one that, the consensus, everybody likes this song. Everybody says, oh, I want to hear that song. And it's everybody likes to sing it too. At least I think. So it lift from the bottom. And I don't are we going to at all go to anybody who wants to sing the chorus later on, or we have anybody that has wanted to do that or no? Afterwards.
Go, Aubrey.
Okay. I will. I shall. We have come to liberate you.
We have come to liberate you.
Thank you. All the ways you hold us down.
All the ways you hold us down.
When you hurt me, you hurt you too.
When you hurt me, you hurt you too.
When you free me, you free yourself.
When you free me, you free yourself.
And when you live from the bottom, everybody rises. When you live from the bottom, everybody rises. Poor folk are the first to suffer.
Poor folk are the first to suffer.
In this war economy.
In this war economy.
I'm your daughter, I'm your mother.
I'm your daughter, I'm your mother.
We're a chosen family.
We're a chosen family.
And when you live from the bottom, everybody rises. When you live from the bottom, everybody rises. She laughed. We need air that's clean to breathe.
We need air that's clean to breathe.
We need water we can drink.
We need water we can drink.
You might think that we are weak.
You might think that we are weak.
We're much stronger than you think.
We're much stronger than you think.
And when you live from the bottom, everybody rises. When you live from the bottom, everybody rises. We have come to liberate you.
We have come to liberate you.
All the ways you hold us down.
All the ways you hold us down.
When you hurt me, you hurt you too.
When you hurt me, you hurt you too.
When you free me, you free yourself.
When you free me, you free yourself.
Yes, and when you live from the bottom, everybody rises. 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 Nice touch, Mindy. Nice touch. Thank you for that. You've been most helpful.
All right, and then I'll close us out here with a a goodwill chant that comes from the Buddhist tradition that I follow. May I be happy. May I be free from stress and pain. May I be free from animosity. May I be free from oppression. May I be free from trouble. May I look after myself with ease. May all living beings be happy. May all living beings be free from animosity. May all living beings be free from oppression. May all living beings be free from trouble. May all living beings look after themselves with ease.
Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Josh. Thank you all. See you next week, Freedom Church community. I'm going to sign out of Facebook. We can hang around for a second.
Atheist for the